I knew that she always worked really hard, and she would work 75-hour weeks just because that's the way that she is. You know, she would wake up in the middle of the night and go on her laptop and start writing things, and that was just kind of her work ethic. So I didn't know that it was a specific project, rather than just her being her normal, hardworking self. I'm sitting on the couch in my boyfriend's apartment, and my mom calls me and says, "What are you doing?" Like a normal conversation. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just sitting here, sitting on Kevin's couch, watching ESPN." And she's like, "Well, keep it on that channel because your sister is going to be on TV." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." She's a print journalist, but she's going to be on TV. That's awesome. What about? And she's like, "You just need to watch because something big is going to happen, and just, you know, I'm giving you a heads up." So I'm like, okay, a little bit confused. And a couple minutes later, the ESPN reporter comes on and says, "We have Sarah Ganem here from the Patriot News reporting on the Jerry Sandusky sex abuse scandal story." I'm like, okay, I have no idea who Jerry Sandusky is, and this is interesting that she's on national television. I didn't know anything that she was working on, and then, you know, big names started flashing, like Joe Paterno and the football program, and Graham Spanier, and Gary Schultz, and it started to hit me that this was something huge, especially because it was on ESPN, and then you would change the channel, it was on ABC, and it was on CNN, and throughout the next couple days, my sister's face was everywhere.
Joe Paterno is no longer the head football coach, effective immediately.
My first conversation with her was through text. I was standing on a balcony in Penn Tower, and people started to flood the streets, and she was like, "Remember that flip camera that I gave you?" She's like, "Take that with you and record whatever you see." Obviously, people were pulling down light posts and flipping news trucks, and it got out of hand.
Do you think when she gave you that flip cam, do you think she knew?
That's a really good question. The biggest thing for her was, if you ever see something cool, if you ever see something strange, that's very possible that she knew something was going to happen, and she gave it to me for a reason. My mom always talked about, like, oh, Sarah's doing big, long magazine stories, which that's how she referred to them. Like, they were stories that weren't just like you interview someone, you write about it, and then you're done with it. It's sort of something that, like, you're working on continuously, but I didn't know the scale to which she was working on something.
Do you think Sarah told your mom or, like, your parents had any kind of insight into anything?
From what I've heard from them, I don't think she told them exactly what was going on. I think that my mom knew it was about Penn State, and possibly that she knew it was about the football program, but I don't think she knew it was about anything as sensitive as sexual abuse.
Do you think the Patriot News kind of put her on to cover football games to kind of get her back into town so it wasn't kind of, you know, as obvious?
I think that half of the reason she was here to cover football was to cover football, and the other half was to get her foot in the door and get into the press room and get surrounded with the people who've been part of Penn State football over the years and see what they thought.
After Paterno was fired and, you know, all the big climax happened, did Sarah ever, like, were you talking to Sarah and she said anything like she wondered if this would affect you since you were still a student here?
I don't think, she never said it in so many words, like, this is going to affect you, are you okay? But she showed me by her actions more so. Like, she would check up on me. Even when she was still here and still working in the story, and right after Paterno was fired, she would text me like, "How's your day?" I'm like, this is not like my sister to ask me how my day is. And then I sort of started to realize that she was doing these things and, like, keeping me with her through a lot of it because she wanted to make sure that I was okay. She did ask me a lot if people said anything to me, if there was any backlash toward me. And to be honest, everyone that I knew would either text me and say, "Is your sister named Sarah?" And, you know, I would respond yes, and everything that they said, either through text or a phone call or face-to-face conversation, was always positive. For about a week, most of my classes, that's all we talked about was the story. Even if they didn't know who I was in the class, I thought that was the best part because I could listen to their true and honest opinion about what was going on and what they thought about the situation without them knowing that, like, I was the sister of someone who broke the story. But it really made the process easier for me and comforting to know that the professors and the faculty that I was surrounded with were really proud of what my sister did and reporting on the truth. It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions to be a student, to be someone affiliated with Penn State, and then to see the other side, not just watching the news and being on campus while the news trucks were there and everyone was sort of in a haze, but also being on the media side where I could hear everyone talking and be behind the camera and stand with my sister and hold her notepad while she's interviewing someone, to see how the media was reacting to this and to see how my sister especially was reacting to it. I think I had a unique perspective of both sides, the people who were reporting and that I was a person being reported on, so to speak, because I was part of the Penn State part of the Penn State community. I remember my cousin's girlfriend was at Penn State, and she went out to a bar with my sister during one of the nights that this was happening, and my sister was staying at my house, and she came back really early, and I'm like, oh, did you have fun? She's like, yeah, it's fine, and she went right to bed. I was like, well, that's weird. You guys were out for like not even an hour. You know, bars in State College usually stay until closing. And later on I had found out from my cousin that she went to the bar and people were throwing things at her and booing her, and that just made me so mad and so hurt because their anger is misled. Whenever she comes here, I'm like, oh, do you want to go out now that I'm 21? And she always says, we can go somewhere that's not downtown, or we can go to a restaurant and have drinks, but I'd rather not go out to a bar with you. Not that she doesn't want to be with me, but she doesn't want to put herself in a position for people, especially people who are locals who go and they know who she is. They've seen her in the CDT or in Patriot, and now they know who she is working for CNN. She doesn't want to put herself in a position where people will attack her, and then, now, I don't think she's embarrassed, but she doesn't want me to see that. She doesn't want me to see her being belittled because she is such a strong woman and someone who doesn't really take anybody's shit. It was an experience. It was something that I'll never forget, and I think something good always comes out of something bad. Whoever the source was that told her this tip about the Sandusky story, a couple weeks later he came back to her and said, just kidding, I lied. It's not true. And she didn't take his word for that. She just wanted to see for herself if it was true. And everything that she does with her work, and when she's passionate about things, she just goes for the big goal, and she wants to make sure that the truth is out there no matter what. So she's definitely a ferocious writer. She goes with heart.